right, so let's see. Yeah, OBS. OBS is free. I can't complain too much, but it works most of the time. It's working for me now. Look what it's done for me. It's got all these social media things. I got a picture of the flower that I'm eventually going to paint in the corner. I've got you guys here chatting. I've got me down in the bottom, which I can't seem to point at. Here we go. Down here. Fun fairs and amusement parks. You know what? I used to go to them a lot as a kid. Manor Mysteries is asking if I enjoy going to amusement parks. And yeah, they're definitely thrilling. I went to one in the United States last time I was there on vacation. Went to Universal Studios. They had all sorts of exciting, fun rides and things there. Okay, so what I've got now is this French ultramarine, no, just ultramarine blue. And it's Cotman paper, or Cotman paints. So I'm going to just put some here on my, this one is Artist Loft. So I'm just going to start off with some pigment, just pretty much straight up. Artist Loft, and then the Canson. And already I can see there is a difference. This one is moving out and spreading evenly. This one's kind of blobby. And then I have the bee paper and the arches. So bee paper. And arches. Oops, I need more paint. So the arches is really absorbent, it would seem. Seems like I need more paint to do the same job. And the bee paper is quite nice. This is the Canson. Just looking at checking out how much water is soaking in. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, same color, I'm just going to blend it out with a wash. So I'm going to just dip my brush in water and then pull it along and see what happens as I apply more water. So again, more water on my brush and pull it out in a wash. And I'll pull it out till it's pretty dry. Let's see what happens there. And then the same thing for the bee paper. Adrian is asking what budget I have for art. Well, I think I've blown my budget because I bought so much paper lately. All right, so this is the bee paper, and so you can see that it sucked up the paint, and I've got this line already formed, so that what I'm doing now is not blending out. And then for the arches, I'm betting it's going to be similar. Not as pronounced. I'm able to blend that line out, and then it keeps on going. So I think this is interesting and important. I think if I understand my papers better, then I'll understand what's happening when I'm painting with these colors. So a good answer then for what my budget is for art. I do have a lot of supplies already, so I think it's now I'm just going to add a lot of water and see what happens. Big blob of water. Big blob of water. I like to try to stay economical with my art, and that's sort of why I've ended up with so many different kinds of supplies. And you know, sometimes you spend money on something that's inexpensive thinking it will do the trick, and then you find out that it's not satisfactory. So you spent that money, and now you have to then go out and buy something that is more expensive but better, but you still have the other thing that you bought, which was less expensive and substandard. So it ends up being, so this is just a puddle of paint, puddle of water. Just trying to see what happens when the paint gets really, or when the page gets really wet, whether it deals with that or whether it doesn't. So I'm thinking here now that this arches paper, the puddle of water is leveling itself out differently than all the others. Like it seems more more evenly saturated. I'm not sure if that's the amount that I used, but it's absorbing a little bit, and it's working out. But maybe what I need to do is have wet paper before I even start. So I was talking about my budget then, my art budget. And it's kind of low. It's unfortunate though that I haven't been able to stay in the low end because I've been unhappy with what I've been experiencing from my inexpensive tools. So it means I've had to then spend money on middle of the road and more expensive. So I guess maybe I would say trying not to buy the cheapest tools out there, but also finding good medium quality ones that fit your budget. So my budget is as cheap as possible and still get a good result. If that makes any sense? All right, so this is the quinacridone gold, and I'm just trying it out on these various papers. So that's the very most inexpensive artist loft paper. This is now the Canson 300 paper, which is, these are both papers, wood pulp papers. And then finally here I've got the cotton papers, and this is the B. And again, I'm seeing a line where I ended my paint before, and then this is the arches, and again I'm able to blend out that edge much more easily than the B paper. The B paper in both cases has left me with a little line. And now I'm going to try soaking the paper before starting. So I'm just going to grab a wider brush here and I'm going to put out some water across in a line. All right. So I can tell already that the Arches likes this because the water that I've just put down hasn't pooled anywhere. It's just evenly distributed. And this one, it's pooling along the edges. This one, it's dry. Can you believe it? That has soaked up all of the water. So I'll put some more. So this is the most inexpensive paper. And I think that's a problem. Not knowing a lot about watercolors yet, but knowing that this is soaking in the water immediately is telling me it doesn't leave anything for me to work with on here. So now this one is still shiny. This one has some pools. This one has no pools whatsoever, and I think I even put twice as much water on that one. So now I'm going to try some various types of strokes on top of this wet. So I hope that answered your question, Adrian. And Manor of Mysteries is asking me if I like politics. Well, politics is just a fact of life. You end up with dealing with politics because it is a fact. Do I like it? No, not especially. So here I'm trying, first I'm just going to make some straight lines here. This is just some pretty pure straight up sap green, and you can see where the water was pooling here on both of those. And now onto the arches. Okay, interesting, very interesting. Now I'm just going to continue with this green and wash over the wet area. So I don't think I like politics, but I do have to deal with it. I mean, if you're going to vote and participate in society, you need to pay attention to politics. Okay, so this is dry, completely dry. This has some wetness to it that's letting us have some granulation. Having lots of comments from someone here who I can't even read their font. So, not sure what you're saying there. It's in Arabic, but hello, welcome. All right, so here we have, hi, Art and Drawing, nice to see you. So my name is Lisa, for those of you who are new, and I'm learning how to paint with watercolors. I've done a lot of drawing and with traditional mediums, but watercolor is brand new for me. So today I'm going to try and paint the flower that's up here in the corner. I tried to paint a flower or two yesterday and I was really defeated by the flowers. So I'm going to try today to score 1 point on flowers. And so first I'm just going over my papers here to see the different qualities that I can achieve in each of these. So I've got super cheap Artist Loft paper. I've got some Canson XL 300 paper here. Over here I've got a cotton B paper, 300 pound, and they're all 300 pound papers, and this one is Arches. So I've just, I did wet on dry, and now I'm doing wet on wet. And this one, they can't stay wet. This one, it's okay. It's way better than this one. I've got a pool here on my B paper. The water's pooling in this edge. So it's gonna make a big change here gradient wise. And then my Arches is over here, and it's unsurprisingly the most consistent in its own interpretation of what I'm putting on it. So yeah, I'm just figuring out. Hey Merrick, nice to see you. Well, I'm hoping so. For those of you who missed my stream 2 days ago, I was trying to defeat a habit of using the word "so" as an interjection for no apparent reason. I don't know if it was like a nervous tick that I was having or what was going on, but I seemed to beat it yesterday, so I still have this piece of paper, and I'm allowed to use it in a sentence, like I just did. So I seem to have. That's okay. I don't mind that. You need words to communicate. But when I was finding myself going "so," and then doing the next thing, which was driving me nuts. Okay. Well, I've had a look at all of these now, and I'll just show you here maybe. And you can see this is super dry. I would show you on my overhead cam, but it keeps on refocusing, and I don't think you can see this in focus if I bring it closer. Maybe you can. But you can see it's still a little wet in one corner where there was a ton of water. But even this big puddle that I put down is quickly drying. Robin is back. Hello, Robin. I am here. Thank you for joining me. And then I've also got the Canson here, which, while I'm not, it's not horrible. It's way better than the Artist Loft in terms of predictability. And then this B paper, I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest. Two things have happened. There's a line that's catching on the edge here, and so when I went back to re-wet the paint, it left a line of sediment for both the ultramarine blue and the quinacridone gold. And then here, it's just not absorbing the water. It's like puddling and pooling, and that's great, but I guess I'll just have to understand that if I'm using the B paper, I have to not use quite as much water in my washes. And then the Arches is keeping its shape, and it's looking lovely, and it's, performing as you would expect a really expensive paper to do. I'm going to say that if I had to go for a mid-grade paper, I'd almost go for this Canson over the B, just because it's predictable for me and I understand what's going to happen. And then, you can also play with the wet. There's less play in this Arches paper, which is interesting, because it dries so quickly. I think I'm just going to use up a little bit of this corner here. Have any of you used Arches paper before? 100% cotton. This is, it's like the be-all expensive paper that I can find locally. I'm sure there's even nicer, awesomer paper somewhere on the interwebs. But it'd be nice to have some advice on working wet on wet with powerful paper like this paper is. Maybe it's just a matter of making sure I have as much water as I'm trying to have to get those super watery effects. And perhaps I'll love it. I need to learn how to work with it. So many artists, can't be wrong. I do like the definition on the edges here on this wet puddle. and it's not buckling, so the shape isn't distorting despite the fact that this one is still a really big wet puddle. That's interesting. That is interesting. I'm going to try the same thing here on the B paper just to give it a fighting chance. I don't want to say I don't like it if I haven't given it a good try. So I made a nice puddle, but I'm gonna try and be a little bit less generous with how much water there is, and then go back into my permanent sap green here, do a similar type of treatment that I did over here on the arches. And of course, it'll never be identical. That's the beautiful thing about watercolors. I think that's why I've fallen in love with this medium. Is it's just so organic. Like it's like a child. You know, you want you go to the park with your kids, and you want them to, you know, play on the playground nicely and do all the things that you want them to leave when it's time to go. But they have minds of their own. They're not gonna do what you want to do unless they want to do it. That's just the way watercolors work. They'll pretty much do what you ask, but they might not do anything you ask unless you ask the right way, which could be different from day to day. All right, so I just used it. Have I thought of any words instead of so? Apparently not. Yeah, it's a thing. All right, so I'm gonna have soon I'm gonna have some new paints. I ordered some Daniel Smith primary colors. It's a pack of 6. It's Daniel Smith Essentials, and it comes with 3 blues and 2 blues and 2 reds and 2 yellows, 1 warm and 1 cool for each color. And they're gonna be arriving probably sometime next week. And when they do, I'm going to do a swatch of all 6 of those colors, plus this other little set of paints that I have here. I've got a raw sienna and a quinacridone gold, which are both sometimes hard to mix, right? Those yellows. And then I have a permanent green, which is really, I think this is the green I've been using today. It's a really nice one to start with when you're working in nature. And then I have a Payne's gray, which is kind of a nice dark tone, and burnt umber, also dark. So, oh, and of course my favorite color, ultramarine. I think there's a French ultramarine coming with the Daniel Smith, so I may or may not put this one in my palette, but I'm going to have 6 plus 5, which is 11 colors to work with. And I'm going to build a little palette of these paints. The palettes that I've been working with, this one is a Cotman Wizardoon set, and it's got 14 colors in it, including white, so 13 I guess. And then the other one is my Sakura Koi, and that one has got 24 colors. It's like fully mixed, but sometimes I feel like those paints have less transparency, so I'm trying to build a transparent palette with these paints. And I don't know the transparency of the Payne's gray, but it's gray. But this burnt umber is fully transparent, and so is the permanent sap green, so is the quinacridone gold, and so is the raw sienna. And then when I get the Daniel Smith paints, I think 2 of them are semi-transparent, but the rest are fully transparent. So that will be my transparent paint palette when I get it built. So now I'm going to paint the flower that you can see up in the corner, and I'm going to try harder today to put less paint on the white areas. So let's just check here and see. Just check on my stream. Seems like everything's good. Can't ignore the stream. It says 10 minutes ago everything was good, so that is great. And now I'm just going to pull up the picture that I would like to look at in a full size. Okay, let's hear reference pictures. This one. All right. Zoom in. Oh, that's a lot. I'll zoom out. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, so what I'm going to do, first I'm going to choose which paper to use for this. Obviously, I just tried 4 kinds of paper. And This was the Canson. This was the arches. This was the bee paper. Hey, Manor Mysteries. Yeah, I noticed you liked one of my Instagram posts, and I thought, hey, I'm going to go check out their Instagram, and I love the lighting in that picture. It's fun to see what my viewers look like also. I mean, you know what I look like. Here I am. But it's not easy for me to know what you guys look like because, let's face it, I can't see you. Alright, so then I'm just choosing here between the bee and the arches for this next painting. And I guess I'm going to go for the arches. Which is, yeah, why not? Why the heck not? I'm going to set these aside. Yeah, so if you haven't found me on Instagram, I'm DoodleDrawArt. You can @ me. You can follow me if you like. And I am going to get my paper. So what do we have here? We have tape. This is Canson. I had to write on it so I could keep it straight. I didn't have to. I decided to. And here is the arches. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tape it down, and I've got this crazy blue, crazy green electrical tape. Need some scissors. Got them. Yeah, I'm going to tape it down just so I can have an edge. And electrical tape, it's really easy to pull off, so I feel like it'll cooperate. I know I should use artist's tape to do this, but I'm not going to. Alright, so let's see if I can get this looking even. Trying to put it on here so that it's in such a way that my frame border is even. It keeps sticking to my fingers. It's because it's tape. It's supposed to stick. Alright. Now that is about 5 or 6 millimeters, probably 7. Now I'll go down this side here. Can't really see through the paper, so the tape. I have to guess. Yeah, I go through phases. Manor Mystery says they hadn't really posted much on Instagram since early May, but I go through phases too where I'm not really engaged with the social media. I'm more busy with my real life, which is fine. It's good to have a non-social media social life. All right, one more side. And the tape is frayed a little bit there, so I'm going to be careful not to. So I guess one reason why you wouldn't use electrical tape is that it tends to warp. It's easy to warp. It doesn't necessarily go straight. Paper tape doesn't stretch, but this, when you pull on it, it stretches. So that's going to be easy to remove when I'm done. So that's cool. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight. So I'm just going to run my finger down the edge here a little bit, not too hard, just to make the edges all connected. And now I'm going to start to think about this lovely cherry and cherry blossom, and I'm going to paint the background first, and then I'll go back and fill in the foreground. So I'm going to start with that dark leaf behind and pull out Hello, I'm live streaming.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Someone just came home. You can close this door if you like.
Will do.
Thank you. Alright, so I'm starting off with the background, and I'm going to be painting around the central blossom here. And I'm going to use sap green. That looks like a good choice. Just going to grab my Arches paper sample here so I can see how that lays down in different amounts of water. I'm going to look at a little tub here. Permanent sap green. Interestingly, permanent sap green is made of two pigments. It's made of PG36 and PY110. And I can see two colors separating out in the paper there. Either that or I got my brush contaminated on some other kind of paint. Not sure. All right, so here we go. I'm going to stop talking and start painting. So the background is going to be green, and I paint around the flower. And then the choice becomes whether or not I draw the outline or not. What would be a good budget? Well, it depends on what country you're in. Are you in North America? I probably know a North American budget. I would say if you wanted to get serious and have enough of everything to do what you needed to do, you're going to need water, which hopefully is free or relatively free. Then you're going to need paper, which if you just want one pad of paper, you should be able to get that for $20. And then you're going to need brushes. And I tend to use these Oriental art brushes. You can get them fairly inexpensively. You could get a set of brushes for under $20. So we're looking at $40, and then paint. And that's where the big variable seems to really come in, because with paint, you don't, or with paper, yeah, with paint, I'm trying to think and draw now. This gets tricky. There's so many different grades of paint, and it's going to depend on what you are needing or wanting. And I'd recommend getting some kind of a starter kit, because it'll have as many colors as you might need, and then you'll have a little bit of everything to get started. If you just go at it buying individual tubes of paint, you'll probably end up with not the right colors to work with each other, and also not enough colors to do what you want to do, or too many of the wrong color. Anyway, yeah, just pick up a starter kit, and try to avoid like brands that are strictly for students. So look for something that's aimed at professional artists, or at least a company that makes a professional line. So rather than just going into like Artist Loft, which does have a fairly decent set of paints, if they don't have a professional line of paints, you will find that my experience is that it's not always as easy to upscale your work, your levels. I don't know about Asia, so I guess that makes the budget question a little extra tricky. Just gonna pull up this picture. Here we go. So there's little yellow dots, and there's some green in here. Green is behind, and the light green is behind the flower. So in between here there's some light green, and that's the back, the little petioles, I think they're called, the green petals from behind. All right, now on with the green. Now I want the edge of this to be fairly crisp, so I'm going to start with dry on, I'm going to start with wet on dry. And this was the Arches paper, in case you can't remember. So I'm just going carefully around the edge of this beautiful cherry blossom. It's a gorgeous day out today. It's hot and sunny. It's like summer day, which is fabulous. I'm gonna just leave a little circle here in the back for one of those little cherry blossoms. Paint one of those in. Horizontally, why not vertically? What are we talking about? Merrick. That it seemed a little random. I'm sure I should understand what you're talking about, but horizontally. This picture is vertical. Is that what you're asking? And then I'm going to put another one of these little blossoms right here, peeking out. A little bud. It's a cherry bud, because that's a blossom. And then I'm going to keep going around. And I'm going to put one more of these peeking out over here. And make my way up here. So I do like my ability to blend this out after the line has started to establish itself. It's getting a little more permanent up here. It's been dry for a while, and I wasn't smart enough to work back over that when I first put it down, but that's okay. That's how you learn. The stream is live. On the stream live, it's horizontally. Oh, I think that it flipped it somehow, because I took the picture with my phone, and it's probably in a different orientation on your screen. Some technical reason that I cannot explain. That's my answer. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Oh, I've sort of run out of this green, so I'm going to find my tube and put a little bit more on my palette. I don't need much. That's the thing. If you're going to work with tube paints, I would also say try not to get out more paint than you need unless you're working, unless you're going to put it in pans that will be used over and over again, or a palette that is going to keep sitting out. You can reactivate the paint, but if you're putting it, like I'm just using it right here on my mixing palette, and later I might not want green, so it's It's a good idea to not put more out than I'm going to use necessarily. So what's everybody doing this weekend? Anyone doing anything fun and exciting? In our city, there's a Greek festival this weekend. So there's going to be delicious food all weekend. And dancing, and shows, and singing, and all kinds of good stuff. So I'm going to participate. I'm going to head over and see what they're up to. Spectate. Did I say that I like harp and violin? Sure, yes. I love music. Most kinds. Music is very calming. Relaxing. So is painting. Painting is very relaxing. Unless you're struggling, in which case it can get frustrating, but that's okay. So I'm participating in this watercolor challenge called 30 by 30 Direct Watercolor 2018, and it's put on by some YouTubers, Mark Taro Holmes and Lorraine, who's following the White Rabbit, and a couple of others. And the mission of that challenge is to paint direct to watercolor every day for 30 days in June. So today is officially June 1st. So at some point today, I will have to paint something direct to watercolor. This won't count because I made sketch marks first. Eve just saw that I'm a fellow Canadian. I am indeed a proud card-carrying Canadian. Yeah, Canada. Canada's a great country. It's really big. It's got a lot of different kinds of people. We all seem to get along, for the most part, with each other. We're a fairly accepting group of people, which I like. I'm happy about that. If I was going to live in another country, I wonder which one I would live in. Alright, so there's the background. Now, I'm going to paint the little inside green part. I think this needs a bit of yellow to brighten it up. So I'm going to clean off. And I'm just going to mix up a little brighter green. So I'm going to take some of this over here, not much. Sap green. And I'm going to pick a little bit of lemon yellow. Not much. Oh, that's great. Super bright. And I'm just going to paint this little inside section now with a much more vibrant green. Because what's under here is the little tiny leaves that are behind the blossom, and they're super delicate and young and really not full of chlorophyll. They're very pale and they're a bit on the bright side. So, and Manor Mysteries is asking me what's the hardest picture that I've painted so far, and it was yesterday. It was hard. It's okay. It's okay. Now, I feel like my background is a little bit feeble here. It's kind of stopped a little too soon. Just going to add a little more green, pulling down this way. And put just a dab of this lighter green in it. Colors are important. It's important to get the colors just right. And with these transparent colors, you can go like one over the other and still see what's happening underneath. So if I was to put a little bit more, if I was to put a little bit of this lemon yellow in the mix, it would brighten it up and I would see them both. Okay. Maybe that's my new word. Okay. Citrus. The citrus is hard, but I think I did a pretty good job on the citrus, even though it was tricky. I was pleased with it in the end. Okay, so now I have to paint these little, the pinker things. So I'm going to go ahead and define the edges of those little pink blossoms. And I'm going to switch over here to using this little pan. You can see the colors. And I think the alizarin crimson or the purple lake are going to be the ticket. I'm going to go with purple lake. Just going to put a little bit here on my palette and add some water. So it's nice and vibrant. Make sure my brush is super clean. All right, it's already 11 o'clock. So time is flying. I'm getting more water. More water. Okay, pick up a tiny bit of this pink. And now I'm just gonna paint in, I think I want a smaller brush. Don't ask me why I'm using this ginormous number 10 on this tiny picture. So let's switch down to a 3. Get it wet. But still fast paint. Citrus is awesome. Yeah, that was pretty fast. I'll try a fast paint on this one when I'm done and see what happens there. That maybe will qualify as my direct to watercolor for the day. All right, so this is going to have a little bit of just a little bit of this purple defining the edge here, and then another one that's going to come in a circle up over like that. And then the water, stop right at the edge of this. And then I'll do another one over here. Watercolors always dry more faintly than they appear when they're wet. That makes it interesting. And a little more pink over here. So we're going to try and get right along that edge so I have the full definition of this flower. And then worry about what I want to do inside this. I feel like my purple's got some green in it. Maybe it's because I keep touching the edges of my border. It's probably not fully dry. It's definitely not fully dry. It's like a little bit of a waiting game. You want it to be dry enough to work beside it, but you don't want it to dry too quickly. So you end up with these variations. All right. I'll let that dry a little bit, and now I'm going to think about what to do in here for this flower. I'm just going to grab my eraser and pull off a little bit of the sketch marks that I've put on here so that they're not dominating what I'm trying to achieve. Cool. I just smeared my wet paint into my dry paint. Let's see if I can pull that off. Let's see how good you are, Arches. Let's see if I can re-wet this paint and pull it off. Yep, that was fab. It's like it never happened. I would have just dealt with it if I couldn't have gotten it off, but I did. I never did find my eraser I was looking for the other day. That was in my pencil case. I may have lost it. Okay, now I'm going to really carefully look at this, and I see there's some veining. It's such a faint purpley gray. I'm going to work on that. So let's see. Let's just do straight purple. And let's get an even smaller brush. Let's go for number 1. Yeah, number 1. And looking closely, hey guys, looking closely at, probably got my nose sticking into the camera here. Looking closely at the veining. I'm kind of sort of down from here. Pulls itself up. Hopefully you can see what's going on here. I'm going to, yeah, that's funny. Manor Mystery says, are you sure it wasn't erased? My eraser. I'm going to try switching this back to autofocus. See if it doesn't go fuzzy. I do want to save my changes. Let me know if this gets too fuzzy, but I just feel like the autofocus might give you better, more crisp detail on this little tiny. You might actually be able to see these tiny lines. Why don't you let me know? Can you see the tiny lines, and could you see them before? Which one is better, now or before? I need my picture back. There it is. Okay. So now a whole bunch of little veins along here. So Robin says that they find that on humid days the paper dries slowly, and in arid climates cause the paper to dry quickly. That makes sense. And Adrian likes it better now, and Merrick says, yes, I see it now. Okay, well, if you feel like it changes for you, if you don't like the focus, let me know. I can try the other way, but I think this probably does work better in the end. Alright, so the shadows here, I mean, everyone's tempted to make shadows dark, like dark colors, but the shadows are often the colors that are already in the picture. So I'm making these shadows pink, because that's really the veins of this leaf. And then this one's going to come over the other one. So we're going to create the shadow here. Just pull this away, creating an edge. And then the same thing here, this leaf is coming over that one. Petal, it's not a leaf. And we've got some veins coming into the middle. And some more water paint. Well, already I like this one better than yesterday's, so that's cool. I mean, that could change. I could overwork it. Sometimes you don't know when to stop. You think you're not done, but you were done. And you add more details that end up making something look less favorable in the end. That can happen. Yeah, so for me, Greek Fest this weekend. Taking a friend to the airport as well. So it'll be a drive. Just making a little bit of texture in these buds. And now I want to think about how this blossom has some shadows. I mean, like, so already the inside of this looks like I painted it pink, mostly because it contrasts with the green of the paper. But I did not paint it pink. I simply left it white. And I wonder what color I should use for some shadows. Look at it on my phone. Well, it's pretty neutral. So if I neutralize the purple with some green, I think you make complementary colors by working across the color wheel. So if I were to mix this same purple here, what have I got here? This looks like Quinn Gold. Yeah, that might make a good shadow color. I don't want to put very many shadows in here, but I do. Maybe I'll just try it on this paper here. See what I've got. It's kind of brown. That's why you should try it before you do it. Definitely needs more purple. Maybe I need a bit of blue. That's pretty good. I don't mind that one. I just dropped my brush. I think I just need to have it super watery, super thinned out. And I'll go right there in the middle of all that. And then I'm just going to add, like here along this edge, you can see the flower itself has folded back in, and then it creates this little shadow underneath the fold. And then there's a little bit of texture on this edge, makes it look curved. And over here, we're going to have some shadowy edge along here. Merrick is asking about the quick painting. Yes, I'll probably go to quick paint on this. What I tend to do is paint the subject fully and then go back and try to do the same thing super fast just to see what happens. I'm almost done. So I like to keep my pictures suggestive, not realistic. I don't want it to be like a total reproduction of this cherry blossom. I want it to just have the air, the essence of a cherry blossom. All right, and then looking at the picture, I think I can bring some shadows all the way across this one here. And then I think they all will have like darker down here to make it look like it's come from far away. All right. Pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I think I'll put a little bit darker shadow just along this edge to define that leaf a little more cleanly. And I think that's the way to get those edges to pop, is to just grab practically pure purple and then just bring a tiny edge. Otherwise, to the naked eye, they seem to be the same blossom, the same petal. So clean these edges up, make them a little bit less blurry. Sometimes I'm holding my breath, which is why I go quiet. Because you can't talk and hold your breath at the same time. All right. This is definitely better than yesterday's flower. Definitely more pleased with this one in terms of how it's comparing to my expectations. It's all about tempering your expectations. Sometimes when you feel let down, it's like, well, why did I expect so much? I'm brand new at this. I can't be the best on the first day, but I had such good luck on a couple of the other ones that it's like, oh, I'm gonna rock this. It's gonna be easy. Yeah, it's not easy. Trust me. Watercolors are not easy. All right, so I'm just going to I'm gonna grab some super wet yellow and do some blobs in here for the, you know what, I'm gonna put some gouache with this yellow. So the other thing that gouache is good for, people were asking me yesterday about gouache. Gouache is also good for adding, the kind of gouache that I have here is zinc white. And the zinc white is able to combine with watercolor pigments and be mixed together. And then you end up with a more opaque version of this color you're working with, so it will cover better on when it dries. So that's your tip for today. Gouache mixed with watercolors. This is brush number 3. Getting an even smaller brush. This is brush number 1. Okay. I can't get any smaller than 1. Okay, I'm gonna make little dots. This number 1 brush is annoying. It keeps on getting random sticky bits. Okay, I trimmed it. Okay, gouache here mixed with yellow, lemon yellow. And I'm making the little ends of the pollen stamens. I'll be able to go over these afterwards and like deepen them up by adding more lemon yellow over them if I want to, but the gouache is going to help them appear more stable over the darker colors underneath. Okay, so let's let this dry so I can go back and add those little details after, but let's go ahead and make Merrick happy and do a speed draw. And Adrian obviously will be happy as well. Yes, I'm going to attempt the speed draw of the same exact picture that I just did. So I need paper, and I'm going to go with Canson. Is this Canson? I believe so. Yes. I'm going to go with Canson, and actually, you know what? I'm going to go with Artist Loft because it dries super fast. I labeled this as Canson. Doesn't look like Canson. Must be. Couldn't have got it wrong. I couldn't have got it wrong. This one is Artist Loft. Okay. I'm going to use the Artist Loft paper because I know it dries really fast. And I want it to dry fast in this case in order to have the greens stay separate. So I'm just going to grab my Artist Loft sample paper here. Is this it? Yep. Just so I can know what to expect. And now, quick draw. I'm going to start with doing the same order that I did before. Start with the green and a number 3 brush. No, a number 10 brush. And let's check the time. 11:13. So I'm not starting yet. I don't have my paints ready. Okay, it's counting the time even though I don't have my paint ready. Yeah. Those of you who tuned in and stayed till now, you get to watch me paint like a maniac. And what other color was I using? Alright, I got everything I need. Tried to paint in under 15 minutes. Okay, so 15 minutes will take me to 11:28, and that's perfect because that's when I'm finishing my stream, 11:30. Okay, here I go. I'm gonna do the outline. So apparently this is when I say so a lot. This is when I'm in a hurry. Gonna go around the edge of this flower. Already it's not a circle. That's okay. And then around the edge of this one, but I'm going to leave room for a blossom. I'm going to continue around the edge of this flower. I'm going to wet this down and move it because I know this paper to be quick drying and absorbent, and I didn't wash it first with paper. I'm going wet on dry, which means I have to go back over this quickly if I don't want it to be streaky. All right. That out. And that's 2 of the leaves. Hopefully these end up the right shape. Pull this 3rd one out. And start the 4th one. The 3rd one's too small. That's okay. Start this one. And then I'm going to put a blossom. Bud. Now I'm going to continue this one. Start the next one. I like the way the dark looks on the edge here. I'm going to pull some more dark into this edge while it's still wet enough to do it without adding more water. Blenderize this. Alright, now we've got leaf, leaf, bud, leaf, leaf, bud. I started a leaf, I have to do another bud. I need more green. Now I need to finish this leaf. Petal. I keep calling them leaves with their petals. So, yeah, someone caught me. Merrick, you caught me. Alright, so the next thing I did was finish defining the edges of these flowers by going back in and painting the edges of the buds that are touching the insides of the flowers. Hopefully I won't run into an issue of the paint being wet when I want to be dry. So I'm just going to add a little more green pigment in here while I wait for this to dry a little bit. It looks like popcorn in grass. Yes, it does. You are not wrong. But soon, I hope it looks like cherry blossoms. I hope. Now, clean my brush, get some purple. How much time have I got? Oh, lots of time. I got lots of time. I got 10 minutes. This doesn't feel like a speed paint. No, I'm joking. Purple. Purple Lake. It's a pretty name. It's a pretty color. It's kind of a magenta. I think I need to switch to a smaller brush. Go for number 3. And lots of water. Make sure my brush is fully clean before I pick up this color, otherwise I'll contaminate it with something else. Okay, so I'm going to make the edge of this one come like this. And then it's going to have another line from here. And this one, let's see, this one is going to be down here. And like this. And this one's going to come along here. And then that. Okay, now I didn't do the little middle greens, but I should do those next so that the yellow has a chance to get on there before everything dries up. Alright, so this gets a little tricky because I have no lines, but it's going to be a little triangle diamond shape here, another one here. So I'm looking at where this leaf comes in, petal comes in, and then I'm pointing it at the center. So here, like this, one more. That looks good. Ish. And a little bit more there. Okay, now I need shadows of purple. And I'm just going to define the edge of this one as it comes down here, and then create some shadows on this leaf, this petal behind it. Same thing on this other side. It's going to come over and under and shadow, over and shadow, over and shadow. It's like a little chant. Over and shadow, over and shadow. And then a little bit of water. Just pull this shadow around. It still can be activated, which it can. And pull this shadow around. And pull this shadow around. All right, it's coming. Just gonna wait on this to dry a little bit, let it soak into the paper. What have I got for time? Ooh, 5 more minutes. Pure skill. This is why I like fast paint. In seconds, from nothing to blossom flower. I love your enthusiasm about this. It's really not bad. So I'm just gonna, while it's drying for a second, we'll just do a little comparison here to the one that I tediously took my time with. And then this one was done much faster. So there's definitely differences. Well, first of all, this one goes this way. I put the blossoms, the buds, in a different spot. Am I doing a stream tomorrow? Yes, I'm doing a stream tomorrow. What am I going to paint? I don't know. Not really sure. I was thinking about doing a study in shades, like just using gray and trying to paint the darks and the lights. Maybe that's what I'll do, like pick a few different things and just do like speed paints or straight to watercolor, and try to experiment with levels. So like a 1 color challenge where I'm just going to paint in like black and white or whatever color I'm using, and white. What do you think of that? What do you think, Adrian? Is that a good plan? Ooh, almost dropped my brush. That might be what I do. I'm just gonna get some green and try to create a little bit of a contrast edge here along the bottoms of these blossoms, because you can't really see the definition of them yet at the moment. ATM, you cannot see it. Texted my friend the other day because I was not going to be able to make it to a movie that a bunch of people were going to. I'm like, tell everyone I can't make it, don't save me a seat, something's come up and it's really busy here, ATM. And she thought I meant at the bank machine, at the ATM. So funny. I'm like, no, at the moment. I'm in a rush, so I didn't type out all the words. So sorry you didn't understand what I meant. I work with talented people, so I feel when somebody has good skills. Well, that is, what kind of work do you do, Merrick? I would love to know. And you work with talented people? That is a good thing. All right, I've only got 2 minutes, and I want to add in, hello, I'm zooming this, the little inside petal things, stamens, and they're yellow with gouache, with brush number 1. And here they go. Blook, blook, blook. Blook, blook. That's the noise they make. Blook. And these definitely need some kind of a brown on them to help them pop out, because they're hard to see. I'm going to do that in my painstakingly slow version as well. I'm going to use quinacridone gold. Could I stream around this time? Not tomorrow, because tomorrow I am driving a friend to the airport, so it'll be a bit later, but not too much. It will be 3.5 hours later than this moment. Whatever time it is right now for you, add 3.5 hours to that time, and that's when I'm starting tomorrow. It's later. Sorry if that's not so good for you, but I have to go to the airport. Alright, so there's that. And here's this. I almost like the quick draw better. Quick paint. So I'm just going to add a little contrast to these with some quinacridone gold. Just a little hint. Just a little hint. And since I still have 30 seconds, I'm going to add a few little veins with this. All right, so this takes us to the end of today's live stream. And I'd like to thank all of you for having joined me today. It's been lovely painting yet again. I'll be back tomorrow because, like I said yesterday, I'm learning. I'm wanting to get better, and the best way to get better at anything is to do it a lot. The more you do something, the better you get at it. And if you take a break, you can still continue to improve, but not as much as if you do it every day. All right, so that is it. Merrick says they won't be back. Yeah, everybody has a life. I understand that, but I'm happy that you joined me today. And I'll just bring these two paintings back in so you can see them both. The slow one and the fast one, and the paper sample. So this one was slow and expensive because I used my expensive paper, and this one was quick and cheap because I used my cheapest paper. Same paints and brushes for each. So I'll see you guys next tomorrow for those of you that can join, and if you can't come tomorrow, I'll see you when I see you. Thanks again. Bye bye.